Welcome to episode 4 of this thesis journey. I know I missed a week last week, so there's a lot to catch up on over those past few weeks. Some of the things that we'll be going through are looking at precedent studies to see what existing projects are out there that may have some relevance or influence on what we're doing for this project. We looked at user group and program research just to understand who it is that will be using this project and how that will influence our design or even the concept itself. And after doing some of this research, it started to shift maybe that central idea of what this project is all about. So we'll be getting into that in a little bit too. So for my precedent studies, I looked at 12 train stations from around the globe, from Tokyo to the Netherlands to Spain, even to LA. While each of those are in different contexts and serve different needs, there's things from each of them that we can pull from. Even though while some may be in larger, more urban contexts with several train lines coming in different directions, and others may be a little bit more suburban or rural that have just a single train line going through and are much more simple stations. Some of these stations are already designed to be these larger retail centers or plazas, like the Orchard Station in Singapore or the Tama Plaza in Tokyo. And then on the other end of that, some of them are much more rural or suburban, like the Assen Station in Netherlands, or even Belgium has these larger, more open air stations. Each of these projects have a value that we can pull from to see what worked in their context, or maybe what we can pull from for our context. And then when we move on and look at the user group research and program research, we start to understand who it is that will be using this project. We want to understand what is their background, what are they like, what are they looking for of the existing system, what can we do to improve upon that, or maybe what's already working that we can keep in place. As we're looking to integrate dining, retail, transit, all these things all in one place, maybe what are some ways that historically those have been done before? Or if we are doing a central plaza, how do those connect to each other? What are the more priority programs that are going to take larger space on the site, and what's going to be a little bit smaller? Or even looking at or understanding our parking situation a little bit more. As we saw in previous videos, that the parking is just such a large portion of the existing site. So how can we maybe minimize that and rely more on a shared ride experience or even on public transit? part of that user group research was conducting different interviews. I was actually able to interview the father of one of my old friends who's been a transit planner for 40 plus years in Alaska, Portland, Maine, and most recently the Lake Tahoe region, just to understand what goes into the transit planning process and who it is that you work with, whether that's government entities, private entities, and how that all works together. So that's some of the research we've been doing this past couple of weeks just to understand that a little bit better. So as I was doing this research, I think the idea of the project started to shift a little bit. One thing I think we do is when we research something, we try to validate our thoughts, or we try to validate our original idea. So I was researching proof for what my concept was, that having this transit center as a hub was a need and that it was valuable. But as I was researching it, I was realizing that this wasn't entirely true. That while there is value in having city centers as transit hubs, there's also value in having a dispersed city. So there's give and take to each one. Especially as looking more into the user groups and understanding what the project purpose is, that's where there is starting to be a little bit of a shift in what the main idea of this project was. All right, we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent right now, and then we're going to bring it back. Or I remember when I was commuting on the train and the bus, even on my short bus ride, I connected with people that I would never connect with before. People from just different walks of life, just different experiences that I would have otherwise just never known or never met. And there was a sense of connection there just because we were in this shared experience or this shared place. And I think transit centers are uniquely equipped to be this great equalizer. It's this place that connects different regions, different cities, different neighborhoods, all kind of come through and intersect in these different moments. The name I gave my project was Cultivating Intersections. And the initial idea of that was that these transit centers need to be intentionally developed, and it needs to develop over time. And then that time to develop and integrate with the community. But as I was doing this research, I think that name came to mean a little bit more. That it's not just these intersections of transit between train and bus and shuttles and cars, but I think it's more of a personal, more of a human intersection of this moment of connection and this moment where different people intersect, different people from different places, different walks of life intersect in one place. And I think architecture has the power to develop and foster that. And maybe that means getting away from a more private architecture and developing more of a social or more of an exposed architecture where we see what's happening around us, we can see the people, we can connect with the people around us. And that's one idea in this project that I want to develop and explore, is how can architecture foster this sense of community and this sense of connection where different people from different places intersect in this one moment. And there's different ways to do that between programming, between setting up these open spaces and how the spaces connect, the circulation, how people move from the terminal through the plaza to the street, to the parking, to the bus, to the dining. There's all these layers of architecture that will influence and help foster this. Thanks for watching episode 4. I hope you have a better understanding now of what goes into developing a project, the research behind it, maybe how that idea grows and changes and shifts as the project develops. If you have any questions on the process or the project itself or that idea, feel free to leave a comment below. Be sure to subscribe so you can see how this project continues to move from this concept and idea through the research into maybe a little bit more of a form or exploring different architectural ideas this next week. Hey!